cast out the net wide. And to do that, that is finding online audiences first. And there are a lot of tools that you can use to do that. One of my favorite tools to use is Prolific. We brought that into the accelerator, and we had a nice partnership with the guys, and they came in and did a talk and showed the founders how to use it. But essentially, it's an audience building tool, and you can say, look, I think my audience, because this is all assumptions, remember, I think my audience is male, female, both, with children, without children, living in this demographic, this area, earning this sort of money, this type of job. What else can you put in there? I think even religious beliefs, lots of things like that. And you can build a persona that you're assuming. And you can send out, what you do is you basically connect, you do a survey using survey tools, SurveyMonkey, obviously, Typeform is one that I like using. You create your survey, and they're free if you keep your survey questions down to 10. And if you don't and you want to ask more, I encourage you to ask more. The first couple I would do as the free tool. So you can see this is really not, you don't need funding to do this. As you get more and more involved and deeper, then you might want to pay, and they're very cheap. It might be £25 a month, and then you can ask lots of different questions, and you can do things like, if they answer yes to this, go to that question. If they answer no, go to this question. So it gets quite, I'm making it sound complex, but it's actually quite easy to use. Then you would probably be looking at spending anywhere between £50 and £100 on Prolific to go out to around about 100 individuals to 200 individuals. It does depend on how you set it up. Now, I think to myself, okay, if I went out to 200 individuals who I think are my audience, what a great start, okay? Then you would look at those answers and responses. And here's the thing, Naily, this is a real crucial thing. Interpreting, it's one thing going out and doing all that work and getting the data. The second crucial thing is how you interpret that data. And I see too many times where I've asked for the responses, and I've asked for the founder's summary, and they're putting people in the yes pile that they're kind of really not in the yes pile if you really look at their answers. And there are a number of tricks and tools without I won't go down a rabbit hole here, but there's ways to ask certain questions on a scale of 1 to 10. How would you rate this? And then somewhere down further in the questionnaire, ask the same question but differently, or ask them to free type. And it's amazing what information you get from people when they free type. Yeah. So there's a lot of different little things you can do, but that's just the start. But then out of that, let's say you did it for 100 people, you probably find 30 or 40 that you go, aha, here's our potential customer here. Discount these guys, right? Because they're not our customer. So like in our case, not every founder is a customer that we see. It's a very specific founder. And we didn't know that until we did these surveys, until we started fine tuning about where that founder is, what their mindset is, the mindset of not wanting to join an accelerator and the reasons behind that. We dug deep into those issues. Why is it a problem to join a 3-month accelerator? Why don't you want to give equity, etc.? We learned everything there could be to learn about those issues that those founders were having. And then we sent out another survey, and we kept those 30 out of the 100 we wanted, but then we added more new respondents. And as we kept going, I think we did like 5 or 6, we kept fine-tuning our questions and digging, and here's the key, understanding our persona more and more as we went on. Then, because I think some of your listeners will go, what about face-to-face interviews? Yes. Then we took some of those 30 from the front of all the first interviews and started asking, would you mind, because you can chat to them, Naily, would you mind if I got some time face-to-face on a Zoom call? And you might give them something. You might say, look, for doing so, if you join the platform when we release it, we'll give you this, that, the other. And it's interesting how many people will come forward and say, yeah, I'm happy to give you some time. So then what I was, in summary, casting it out wide, learn. It's almost like an iteration of your product. Your interviewing process or your validation process is the same. So learn, adjust your questions, start adding some face-to-face interviews, and then that process continues. And we don't do the surveys anymore because I think we had up to 500 last count. And now we've done about 150 or so face-to-face interviews, and that continues because of our learnings. I don't feel that, look, you can go straight into face-to-face interviews, but I think the learning curve is quicker, and this is my point, the learning curve is quicker for a founder to understand their their customer better and the relationship their customer has with the problem they're trying to solve by doing the wide net version, that strategy, and doing so with online tools. And then they can come in and start digging deep into face-to-face interviews from what they've learned from the online version. I hope that made sense.
Yes, it makes a lot of sense, and I'm going to play it back, just a quick summary, as there's something that you've said there is quite exciting, and my questions ran away, but I will come back. Because what I love about what I love about what you've just described is a slight change in the way of thinking of many people out there. Some people might put in they might have a survey of a few questions in addition to the structures and what to ask and what not to ask. That's one thing on the side. But usually there's no goals of how many responses we would like to have. And they might stop at having 20, 50, and that's the entire validation or the entire initial survey as part of the ideation. So I've been working with founders that come and says, oh yes, we've done just the one round of going and asking questions and that's it. Whereas from what you're saying, it's a continuous process. Just as you will develop using whether it's Agile or whatever flavor of Agile that you use, you look at what are the features that we're building and we do that in 2 sprints. The same mindset happens at the very early stage when you are still going through the ideation either of a new startup or a new product feature that you will kind of build. And I think that's definitely something worth emphasizing, as it's not something that you do once, but don't as well go for 500 responses at the beginning and stop there.
And that's what a lot of founders do, if I could add. Sorry, Naily, but yeah, and that's what a lot of founders do. I've done 500, but then what do you do with that? And did you ask the right questions? And what came out of those discussions, or the results or the answers that you got? And a lot of founders actually, are just interpreting that incorrectly. Going, look, this founder said, sorry, I'm saying founder because it's for me, but this customer said yes, and it looks like they're interested in this product, but it's so far from whether they will pull out their credit card to pay for it. It's so far. Yeah.
And then the other thing that I think is quite exciting and a mindset shift on the way founders approach doing this research is to really nurture the pool of people that they've already had, especially those who have answered questions and left their details, even in email. If someone has already done that, then use that and use different techniques to make sure that when you go back to future round, if that matches the persona you want to continue with, how do you invite them to continue answering other questions, or maybe eventually to one-to-one stage in terms of interviews and the likes. The aspect I love to tag onto that, think about that as even just research can actually be a marketing tool. So the people who are vaguely interested could be your first potential customers, and you don't know about that. Yet most people, they will go do the really hard work to maybe run interviews, which is even more time consuming, or do surveys. They have all these emails, but they don't think about how do we nurture them to keep them engaged, even if we are not launching a version of a prototype or an MVP later on.
Yeah, absolutely. I always encourage founders that when they're doing these interviews, whether they are online tools, whether they are face-to-face, in whatever format, even asking someone, like, we're all out and about and busy and we're in co-working spaces or at a bus stop, or in a coffee shop.